Hi guys, it's Jeff at Slavens Racing. This video is about the 2023 KTM 300 XC. I just got this bike about an hour ago. I'm definitely anxious to ride it, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this first impressions video, but I do want to show you this bike real quick before I get it all dirty and scratch it up and whatever. All right, so this is an all-new bike this year, the 23 XC. The 23 XCW is not a new bike. So let's start there with what are the basic differences between the 300 XC and the 300 XCW. So, like I just mentioned, this is the XC. And XC means it's their race model. The XCW is considered to be their trail model. And so XCs have linkage, just like the motocross bikes do. That's one of the biggest distinguishing differences. The other is the transmission. This is a close ratio transmission. The XCW is what they call a, I don't know if they call it wide ratio anymore or not, but it basically is. I think they call it a semi-close or something transmission, but it's basically a wide ratio tranny on the W models. This is an XC, so it has the close ratio. And it is a 6-speed. Their early literature that they put out, and information they put out on this bike was incorrect. It said it was a 5-speed, but it is a 6-speed. All right, guys, so those are the basic differences between the two models. The 23 XCW is not an all-new bike. It still has the 22 and earlier motor and chassis and everything. That bike probably, we don't ever know for sure, but KTM always brings the XC and XS models out. The changes, the new updates always come out a year before the W models on KTM. So I'm assuming, and from what friends in the industry have told me, we're going to have all new 24 300 XCW. I've already got one of those on order. That will be my primary race trail bike. I don't race anymore. I'm old and don't see any purpose in that, but this is an excellent race bike for you guys that do like to race. It's also an excellent trail bike for some parts of the country where things are a little more open and flowy. In Colorado, with the super gnarly, super tight trails that I ride in this part of the state, the tall first gear that this bike has is a little bit problematic, so I will end up gearing this bike down some, I would assume. I haven't ridden it yet and haven't made that decision yet, but I'm guessing that it's going to need a lower, going to need to be geared down a little bit on the sprockets in order to get the first gear better for the super tight trails. And all right, so let's just start from front to back. All right, they've put on a better front tire this year. It's the Dunlop MX-33. I'm not a Dunlop guy. I've tried them many times over the years. I've tried this tire. It's a good track tire, but not the best trail tire. So I'll be changing that out at some point. I'm going to ride the bike exactly the way it is the first couple of rides. I do that every time, even on models where there's hardly any changes. I still do that just to get a baseline. And by the way, guys, I've already seen a bunch of videos out there on this new model from a lot of different sources. There's a lot of drama and BS out there already. That's what the internet's made famous for. I'm 69 years old, been doing this for over 50 years, was a factory mechanic for 30 years. Actually, I wasn't a factory mechanic. I built the engines for the teams. I didn't go to the races with them very much. I wasn't the guy who just changed parts. I was the actual designer guy. So I really hate drama, and there's some definite drama out there about this bike. So we'll see how much that is drama and how much is the truth as we move on here. All right, so this top triple clamp's a little bit different. It looks the same, but the mounting part of it down in here where the bars mount on is just a little bit different. Lance over at XC Gears already got a new Mako 360 handlebar mount system for it, and I highly recommend those. They're great. It's got a nice little hour meter on it. All the plastic is new from front to back. The front part of this fender looks almost identical to the previous year, but what they've done now is they've put these little fins on it down here. I don't know, it's hard to get excited about that. That tends to look like BS to me, but maybe they did some testing and figured out it helped a little bit. I don't know, but so all the plastic is different. The shrouds, side panels, rear fender, seat, all that stuff's different this year. Like I said, and I'll say it again, this is an all new platform. All right, luckily they did stick with Brembo brakes and clutch, same as we've had for a long time. I just heard today, and I'm not positive about this yet because I have not been able to fact check it, but I heard today that the TX Husqvarna, which is the same model as this, only white, has Brake Tech brakes on it. Well, the Brake Tech clutches are really nice, but the Brake Tech brakes are not quite as powerful, unless maybe they've improved them for 23, who knows. So I'm not going to throw them under the bus yet, but it's hard to beat Brembos. Brembos are incredible brakes that have been for many years. A lot of even European car manufacturers like Porsches and Mercedes and stuff use Brembo brakes. So, all right, new radiators. New radiator cap, and this thing's kind of a pain to take off. You got to push down on it and then twist it, and it's a little bit clumsy and a little bit hard to twist. We do have a new product already in stock at the shop, a piece that slides over this and kind of snaps into place, and it has a handle on it so that you can remove this much easier, and that piece will just stay attached to it. You can see here's kind of nice. I love details like this. Little plastic guides for the throttle cables. There's some new plastic pieces on the other side for electronics. All right, and you can see the frame is new as well. It doesn't have the TPI, like TPI had with fuel tank, oil tank here. This bike is a premix, so they've eliminated the oil tank. It also has throttle body injection versus transfer port injection. I'll get to that in a minute when I get on the other side of the bike. All right, it's a new pipe. And the pipe is tucked up a little bit. It's not as close to the ground as previous years. What I don't like is this radiator hose right here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna get down on my knee here. Sorry. The radiator hose are pretty darn close to the pipe, and I'm thinking if you have a good crash and push this pipe in, it's going to end up burning that hose, but maybe we'll come up with a guard for that. It's got a new muffler. It's this little shorty. I did start it up. The thing is loud. I don't like loud. We also already have an Enduro engineering end cap for this that, makes it a spark arrestor. So we can cover that base right away. It's going to take FMF a little bit to get out a new muffler, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do here because they've got to make that can bigger. They've got to make it longer. I'm thinking it needs to be way back here in order to get enough packing in there to make the thing quieter. So they'll probably try to extend it forward some and back some. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But we can't have loud bikes and keep our trails open. So. All right, other little things over here. You can see right there the tank on the shock is, it's an all new shock, but the tank is shorter and fatter. And then it's got two plastic knobs there for adjusting the high speed and low speed compression. So that's kind of slick. I haven't tried using them yet. So I don't know if they're awkward or easy to use. We'll find out. And, stay tuned to our channel, guys. Definitely subscribe if you want more accurate information. The No Drama channel. Down here, you can see there's a new adjuster on the shock, that red adjuster there. I already did mess with that a little bit. It's not bad. I can get my fingers in there, no problem. And I like these plastic frame guards here for one reason. That is they've extended it up just a little bit here to where it covers the reservoir cap. Because what happens is the boot, you know, your riding boot would still rub and grind away that cap. So I'm glad they fixed that. It's a new brake pedal. It's an all new engine, and you can see there's no place here anymore for a Kickstarter. I know a lot of guys are going to be whining about that. I could really care less. I've had, let's see, I've been using this same style starter system they came out with in 17, and I ride a lot. I've yet to have a failure, knock on wood. But these bikes also do have a resistor in them. It's in the airbox there so that you can't bump start them. So it's no problem to do that anymore. This is a new brake pedal as well. This part of it's all new spring location. This pad looks exactly the same as the previous few years, so we've got those in stock. The foot pegs are new. They're a little thinner, so they're not quite as close to the ground. Maybe you won't catch on as much stuff. I don't know if that's much of a big deal. I see there's a new bolt here for the brake pedal. The swing arm is definitely entirely new. The frame is new, and you can see it's got this new flat black, like a matte finish. Looks pretty cool. New frame headstay mounts is what I call these, just this top motor mount. On both sides, those are new. And so my concern before I even ride this thing is this chassis. I know everybody's already blowing a bunch of smoke and blowing things out their butt, saying how this is the best bike on the planet, yada, yada, yada. Well, I hope it is. But I've heard that same line of BS for the last 50 years. Every year a bike comes out, people always claim it's the best thing ever, yada, yada, yada. Well, there is no perfect bike out there, and this is not a perfect one either. I'm sure that we'll sort out its issues and so on and so forth, but the factory guys have already been complaining about this frame big time. It's the same frame that the motocrossers use, and the factory team riders are all complaining the frame's too stiff. So kind of just to give you a background history on KTM's methodology for their frames in the past, rather than going to the, so even back up a little more. When the Japanese companies went to the aluminum frames, I don't know when that was, a long time ago, well, they were too stiff by a long shot, by a mile, way too stiff. So then they started making the frame a little bit more flexible, but they also started making their suspension components more compliant. Better valving in the shocks. They manipulated leverage ratios on the linkage, but they also made the forks more flexible. You know, they went to more flexible materials and to try to compensate for that overly stiff frame. Well, KTM's concept in the past has always been stick with the steel frame so we don't have, you know, that stiffness issue to deal with. So a little more flexible frame with a little stiffer components. So the forks have already been, the fork tube material here and the bottom have always been a little on the stiff side. And now they've gone to this new frame. They've got this super stiff frame, and they still have the same super stiff forks on there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. I've already heard from my friends in the industry that do suspension and stuff that this has been a real challenge to get this chassis to work well in rocks and roots, you know, any of the trail conditions. Whoops, it's great. If you're a guy that just pounds whooped out trails or whooped out tracks, or whatever the deal is, probably be a happy camper, because this is a stiff chassis. But like I said before, Cooper Webb and some of those other guys, factory supercross and motocross guys, are not happy with this frame, and they've been doing a lot of whining to their teams to resolve this issue. So be interesting to see how this all pans out in the end. So stay tuned to this channel. I will be going into the suspension part of this bike in depth. I've got a new MX Tech Slavens Mule National Shock on the way. We've got lucky cartridges for the forks already in stock. I'll be putting those in. I did forget to mention a little detail here. These fork guards are a little bit better than previous years because they wrap around a little bit more, but they're still nothing great. I wouldn't write home to mom about those. We do have some much better ProTech, I believe they're called, guards for these forks that wrap around much better and give you a lot better protection. Because you really don't want to get a nick in those tubes down there, because then your seal goes out and you've got an expensive repair. All right, the rear brake is the same as they have been for the last several years. This carrier here for the cable is about the same, looks a little longer. They've gone to a new axle size in the rear. The XCs in the past, they've been 25 millimeter axles, and the W models and EXC models have been 20s. But this new axle is a 22 millimeter axle, so they've gone down on this model from a 25 to a 22. So now the bikes have got 22 millimeter axles on both ends. Let me see here, guys, before I move to the other side. Oh, these new grab handle areas here. So this is interesting in that it goes all the way through. You can probably see in there. Yeah, there's some stuff on my toolbox over there. So that goes all the way through. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I know a lot of guys get excited about built-in hand grip areas on other brands of bikes and stuff too. I'm not that guy. I do not like grabbing a bike right here to lift it or move it out, pull it out of a stuck area or whatever. To me, it's just the wrong position. I like to grab them way back here. It gives me better leverage, puts my arm in a better position. I'm stronger in that position, and so I could care less about this part. It means nothing to me. I'm sure some of you guys disagree and be excited about it, and that's fine with me. So, all right, guys, I think I got this side all covered. Yep. Let's see here. Yep, I believe I do. All right, up here on the controls. I like it that they've put the stop and start button all in one. I've got a similar setup to this made by Moto Minded on my bike, and I really like it. So this is the start button. This is the stop button, the kill button. I like it right there. And now they come with also a new improved map switch, which looks nice and looks tougher on the left side. This new seat actually seems like it might have a little more give than before, so maybe won't give you the monkey butt as bad. We do have, I believe we've got them in stock, if not they're on the way, new seat covers and foam kits from Seat Concepts. I love Seat Concepts seats. I know we're going to hear a bunch of whining and complaints that stuff's not available for these new bikes. Well, that's just the way it is, guys, when you buy an entirely new model. Like the gas tanks, it's going to be quite a while before those come out. The complete seats, that's going to be a while. Spark arrested mufflers, like the FMF turbine cores and the power cores, those are going to be a while because that's all new. The pipes are all new. You know, we've got all this stuff on stock, not on stock, all of it on order, and we've got a lot of products in stock already for this bike, but there's some things that just take a while to develop, and you can whine all you want, but they're just not going to come through very fast. It's just the way it is. Right on the back, Dunlop AT81, definitely not a fan of that tire. For hardcore trail riding, it's just mediocre at best. For track time, it does fine on the track, and that's what it was designed for. Dunlop does very little testing and design for off-road use. They're just now starting to do some more. You know, they've got the EX series tires, but they're way behind the competition on tires for extreme enduro use. And so I'll be changing that out as well and going to tubeless. All right, so down here, the gearing, it's a 49 tooth rear and a 14 tooth front. Like I mentioned before, I'm sure I'll have to gear that down, but I'm going to ride a box stock for the first couple of rides. I got an all new chain guide on here, which actually looks a lot better than previous ones. The previous ones, when you started banging on them in the rocks and stuff, they would start to delaminate, you know, just fall apart in layers. This one looks better, but we do have 2 different brands of those in stock already for these new bikes. We've been anticipating these coming in for a long time. We've been working with our suppliers. We're probably one of the largest KTM accessory companies on the planet that specialize in the high quality KTM products. So we've got good relationships with vendors, manufacturers all around the planet, and we've been working with them for a couple of months now, getting things in order for this new model. You can see here a new kickstand. It's got a nice big platform on it. They got away with the plastic platforms they had before. I really didn't have much of a problem with that kickstand other than the little bolt. It was a bolt like this that was mounted on the stand. It was a different setup than this. Those would come loose or pull out. This looks like a better stand. It is aluminum. It's anodized. And it's got a better mounting system for the spring here. I like that. This mount looks very similar to previous years, which was good. So I like the improvements they've made to this kickstand. It's kind of machined out on the backside as well, so it's lightweight. We don't need to put a boat anchor on there for a kickstand. You can see some of the new features of the engine here. You know, the cases are new, the cylinder's new, head's new. It's got a different head design. That's a 2-piece insert design. There's a new electronic power valve up here, a new throttle body here with injectors down here. And something I should go back to the other side real quick. I wanted to show you. Right in there, that red knob, that is the idle knob, so you don't have to buy and go through the hassle of installing a idle screw anymore. It's got one on there. It's easy to reach and easy to operate. All right, so this underneath this cover here is the throttle position sensor. And those are very expensive parts. I haven't looked up the price on this one, but previous years were around $400. And so we've already got a guard for these in stock. This is the fuel line connector. Push this button to disconnect the fuel line. It's a little bit vulnerable there. I don't know, maybe we'll come up with a solution for that. This is the hose and the crankcase pressure sensor right here. And you can see they've gone to a much larger diameter hose. They did have some problems with those getting some crud in them and plugging up, and then the sensor didn't read correctly, so that should fix that. The reeds look the same. I'm pretty sure they are, and we've got those in stock, V-force reeds. Shift lever, that one looks the same. Could be wrong, it could be slightly different, but it looks the same. And let's see. New air box here. So in the past, you grab the air boxes back in this area to pull them off, but now it's in the front. It says right here, pull to open with a little arrow. So you just grab it right here, it comes right off. So I like that. That's a new shape air filter, and we already have these in stock. We've got some new plastic works in here. I'll investigate that a little more later and up in this area. Like I said, I don't want to waste too much time on this video because I want to get out and ride this thing. And let me see what else is different on this side. Yeah, Brembo brakes are still the same. So the big changes are entirely new engine, entirely new chassis and swing arm and suspension on the rear. The forks have got some updated valving in them. Whoopie-doo, they tell us that every single year, they still suck. You know, harsh. I'll be totally shocked if these forks are not harsh. But like I said, I'm going to put our Lucky kit in there, which is all new cartridges and changes it to a spring fork. The brake rotor diameter looks the same. I think about the only things that are really the same on this bike are the wheel assemblies, and those are not even exactly the same because it looks like they've got new spokes in them to me. I don't think you can see it in this video. Yeah, maybe you can in this video. The spokes have kind of a greenish tint to them. And you can see it there. So who knows? Maybe it's a stronger material. I have no idea on that. The skid plate. That's all the mounting system, which is pretty slick. You can see right there. That's one of the mounts. And then on the front, it's, oh, I forgot. That's right through here. So this hole is for the front mount. And we already have skid plates in stock from AXP and SXS. Both of those are very high quality skids and much thicker and better coverage. The skid plate's all right, but it's pretty thin. It's only 5 millimeters. The XP skids are 8 millimeters thick. And the skids that we have, you know, wrap around better, give you more protection. I'm not real impressed with this skid plate. It's okay. Depends on what type of riding you're doing, but for me in the extreme rocky conditions, no way. Like I said, we've got the other skid plates in stock. We've already sold a boatload of them, and but we got plenty on the shelf right at the moment. All right, here's another one of those little details I like this year. Another little guide here for the hydraulic line and the wiring harness. And there are lots of nice details on this bike this year. They've really done a great job. As you guys know, I'm a big KTM fan, and that means I like all the KTM products, KTM, Husqvarna, and Gas. Now the Gas cross-country model, the EX, does not have this chassis or engine. They did not choose to update it for 23. It's going to probably get an update in 24, I would assume. All right. The TX Husqvarna is the same chassis. It's got a little bit different subframe and seat, but other than that, it's basically the same bike, only a different color. All right, guys, now like I said, I'm going to be digging into this bike every single day. This is my #1 project, and will be for quite a while. This one I'm going to build for me, so it's going to turn into a mule. Like I mentioned before, I've already got a national shock for it, Lucky Fork cartridges, and all the parts and pieces to bolt onto it. So I'll be getting on that real soon. I am going to be out of town all next week, so won't be pushing out much next week, but we will get a couple of videos out before. I'm going to take this out riding tomorrow, and then I'll give you the first riding impressions. I'll probably do that out on the trail. Let's see, the handguards are a little bit different, but you know, who really cares, because the handguards are not so great to begin with. Overall though, I'm impressed. It's a beautiful bike, beautiful detail, quality components. You know, it's typical KTM quality. It is the throttle body, and I forgot to cover that part of it. Okay, so it's throttle body injection now instead of transfer port injection. All right, let me get down here again. Boy, I almost forgot one of the most important parts here. Okay, so the last, let's see, from 17 through 23 on the W models and 22 on the XC models. No, that's not true. Anyhow. So the previous fuel-injected models for the last few years were what's called transfer port injections, which means there was an injector right here on this side and the other side of the cylinder, and that's where the injector was located and injected directly into the transfer ports. Well, there's been nothing but complaints about that. I got along with that bike just fine. The first 2 years, they had some serious issues with their ECUs, their mapping, and that caused some seizures and things like that. But with a correctly mapped one, the TPI models ran great. I mean, I know some of the guys posting videos on this bike are already bashing the TPIs. Well, I see no need for that because I had great luck with the TPIs, and so did thousands of other people. So, all right, so those injectors are gone now, and now the injectors are down here on the bottom of the throttle body. So the fuel goes directly into the throttle body and then directly into the crank cases of the motor and then up into the transfer ports. And like I mentioned before, this bike is premix, so there's no oil pump anymore. You do have to put premix in the gas. Don't forget, especially you TPI guys, you know, if you get one of these, you might forget that it's to put some oil in the gas. So anyhow, that's the big difference on this motor. Throttle body injection versus transfer port injection. So TPI versus TBI. This motor, I'm sure, just from how it's designed, is going to have more low end. But that'll be in my next video, guys, that I'll be putting out right after this one. I'm going to ride the hell out of this bike tomorrow and put out another video. So stay tuned. Please subscribe to our channel so you get all the latest updates on this bike and all of our products that we're constantly getting in. We are the leader in high quality, high technology parts for KTM's Husqvarnas and the late model gas gaskets. So if you can't find it at the Slavens KTM candy store, you probably don't need it. We've got an amazing selection of quality components. If you've ever been in our store, we've got a beautiful showroom with majority of those products on display and a great staff that can help you with the application or information about those products. So stop by sometime if you get a chance. If you're traveling through to go on a ride up in the mountains, please stop in. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. It's probably the longest video I've ever made. Sorry to keep going on here, but there was a lot of information to cover. Please like us on Instagram and Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, give us a shout out when you can, but the most important part is get out and do some throttle therapy. Burn some rubber. That's all for now.